The morning began bright and calm. The hotel ballroom was full of soft light and soft music. White chairs stood in neat rows. A long aisle ran through the center like a clean ribbon. People arrived in good clothes and warm smiles. They spoke in low voices and took photos. The air smelled like flowers and a little like fresh coffee from the foyer. It felt like a day made only for joy. Alina stood in a side room near a tall mirror. Her dress was simple and elegant. A friend pinned a tiny sprig of baby's breath into her hair. Her hands shook a little, but her eyes were steady. She was an ICU nurse. She knew how to breathe through big moments. Still, this one felt different. This one was her life. She looked at her bouquet, then at the small note she had written for her vows. She had packed truth into each line. Truth had always mattered most to her. In another room, Michael adjusted his tie. He owned a small home repair business and was used to tool belts, not tuxedos. He kept checking his phone for texts from vendors. He wanted everything to run well, like a smooth project with a clear plan. His best man, Devon, teased him gently. "Put the phone down," he said. "You already did the job. Today, you just show up." Michael laughed and slipped the phone into his jacket. He thought of Alina's calm eyes and felt his heart slow. Guests settled into their seats. A grandmother tested her camera and waved at cousins across the room. The musicians played a soft melody on strings. The officiant stood at the front, speaking quietly to an usher about the order of the processional. The planner checked the timeline and nodded to the DJ. Everything flowed like a small, careful river. A few children rolled small cars under their chairs and giggled. Near the back doors, a hotel staff member held a tray of water. That was when the doors opened wider. A little girl stepped in with an older neighbor who held her hand. The girl had a backpack and a small notebook pressed to her chest. She wore a clean blue dress and simple sneakers. Her hair was done in tight braids that swung when she moved. She looked around, trying to keep her eyes calm and brave at the same time. The neighbor whispered to an usher, "She just wants to look for a second." The usher was kind. He bent down to the girl's height and asked her name. "Naomi," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried in the quiet music. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to see my father's face." A few people in the front row turned. The musician's bow hesitated on the string. The neighbor squeezed the girl's hand, unsure what to do next. The usher looked toward the front. Devon, standing beside the groom's spot, shifted his weight. He glanced at Michael's mother, Patricia, who sat in the first row with a proud smile and a tiny, beautiful hat. Patricia's smile faded as she watched the small scene forming at the back. The planner frowned and stepped toward the aisle, but the officiant raised a gentle hand. "It's all right," he said. "Let's give a moment." Michael, hearing the small stir, stepped out from the side room. He could not see the girl yet, only the cluster of faces turning toward the doors. He felt a thin thread of worry pull at his chest. Weddings were full of small surprises, a late uncle, a missing boutonniere. He told himself it was nothing. He breathed like Alina had taught him. In, out, slow. The girl took a step forward. Her face tilted with hope and fear together. Her dimples flashed for 1 second, then hid. "I'm sorry," she said again, louder this time. "I just wanted to see my father's face." The words touched the room like a dropped glass. No one screamed. No one rushed. But everyone felt the break. The music dissolved into silence. A child's honest voice had pressed pause on a perfect scene. Michael reached the aisle and saw Naomi. His mind did not go blank. It filled too fast. He saw the curve of her smile that looked strange and familiar. He saw the notebook she held like a shield. He saw the neighbor who was kind and tense. In a quick flash, he saw 9 years fold backward, a summer, a brief romance, a goodbye that came too quickly, a number that no longer worked. He did not know what any of it meant now. He only felt the floor tilt under his feet. The officiant walked down the aisle with quiet steps. He crouched to Naomi's height so he would not seem like a wall. "Hello," he said. "I'm here to help. We can step into a small room to talk. Is there someone I can call for you?" Naomi nodded and pulled a folded paper from her notebook. It had a phone number written in a neat hand. "My mom," she said. "She is Grace. She is at work. I told the neighbor I only want to look. I'm not trying to stop anything." Some guests exchanged wide-eyed looks. Others looked down at their programs, unsure where to put their eyes. The planner took a careful breath and smiled at people near her. She whispered, "Please stay seated for a few minutes." The musicians placed their bows down. One of them said quietly, "We can wait." Alina stood behind the door of the side room, watching through the slim space between the door and the frame. She could not hear every word, but she understood the shape of it. Her hand tightened around her bouquet. She was not angry. Not yet. She was listening to her body, the way she did at work when a monitor beeped in a pattern that meant pay attention. She felt the pattern now. She felt the day shifting under her feet like a bridge that swayed. Devon reached Michael and touched his shoulder. "You okay?" he asked. Michael nodded once, which did not mean yes. He looked at the little girl and tried to find words. He did not want to speak before he knew the truth. He had learned that from Alina. Say less. Check facts. Be kind. He looked at the officiant, who gave him a small nod. The nod said, "One step at a time." Patricia stood up from the front row. She was careful and proud and always wanted what looked right. She loved her son deeply. She did not know the story. The surprise felt like cold water on a warm day. She wanted to protect her son and the ceremony. She took one step into the aisle, then stopped herself. She sat down again and pressed both hands flat on her knees. She reminded herself, "Be gentle." The officiant led Naomi and the neighbor to a side salon near the ballroom. Michael and Devon followed. The planner told the guests they would begin soon and offered water to anyone who needed it. A few guests whispered, but mostly they waited. People understood that life sometimes enters the room without knocking. Inside the side salon, the air was cooler. There was a round table and a small couch. Naomi sat on the edge of the chair, feet not touching the ground. She kept the notebook on her lap and looked from face to face. The officiant knelt again so he was not towering over her. "I'm going to call your mother," he said. "We will wait together." Naomi nodded and said thank you in a very quiet voice. Michael stood near the doorway. His back touched the frame. He did not want to crowd the girl. He felt like a person in a photograph who had just discovered the picture was a window. He measured his breathing. He could hear Alina's voice in his mind, slow in, slow out. He did not know what Alina was thinking now, only that she was brave and would want facts. Alina set her bouquet down and stepped out of the side room. The corridor felt longer than before. She passed a mirror and caught her own reflection. She did not look broken, she looked awake. She followed the path to the salon and paused at the door. She looked first at Naomi. The child's face had a seriousness Alina recognized from hospital hallways. Children can be very serious when they are protecting their hearts. The officiant finished the call. "Her mother is on the way," he said. She was nearby. He kept his voice calm. He had guided many ceremonies. He knew when to hold silence, when to guide action. He looked to Michael and then to Alina with a look that said, "You two set the tone now." Alina stepped into the room. She knelt so her eyes were level with Naomi's. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Alina." Naomi studied her for a second. "Hi," she replied. "I'm Naomi." Alina nodded. "Thank you for being brave," she said. "It takes courage to come here and speak." Naomi's eyes filled with tears that did not fall. She nodded once and pressed the notebook tighter. Michael spoke, finally. His voice was careful. "Naomi," he said, "my name is Michael." He kept his words slow. "We will listen. We will not rush. Your mother is coming. It is okay to sit and breathe." Naomi looked at him. She looked at his eyes and then at his hands. She seemed to measure something inside herself. She took a shaky breath and then a calmer one. "Okay," she said. Devon stood near the wall, quiet and steady. He texted the planner that they needed more time and that everything was fine. The planner thanked him and updated the guests again. She dimmed the music in the ballroom to keep the mood gentle. People sipped water and checked on each other. It turned into a waiting room made of kindness. In the salon, the neighbor told how they had come. She explained that Naomi had seen a printed photo of Michael's face in a shop window with a "congratulations" sign. The girl had stopped walking. She had said, "That is the face." She had insisted on coming to see, even if only for a minute. The neighbor had called Naomi's mother and then agreed to walk with her to the hotel and stay by her side. Alina listened without interrupting. She folded her hands and rested them on her lap. She was making space inside herself for information, the way she did at work when a family shared a complicated history. She understood that people carry stories like boxes, and some boxes are heavy. She looked at Michael for 1 second. He looked back with open fear and open honesty. From the hallway came the sound of quick footsteps. A woman stepped into the doorway, chest rising fast from the rush. She was about 30, with tired eyes that were kind. She looked first at Naomi. "I'm here," she said, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Then she looked at the others. "I'm Grace," she said. "I am so sorry to interrupt your day." She only wanted to look. "She has questions. I told her we would handle this quietly, but she was afraid to lose the chance." The officiant greeted Grace with the same calm warmth. He offered her a seat and a glass of water. She shook her head, then nodded, then managed a soft, "Thank you." Naomi slid closer to her mother. Grace smoothed a hand over Naomi's braids and whispered something that made the girl's shoulders drop a little. Patricia, who had been waiting by the ballroom doors, walked halfway down the hall and stopped. She saw Grace and Naomi through the open salon door. She saw her son standing very still. She took a breath and chose patience. She stood where she was, close enough to be present, far enough not to crowd. The room gathered its breath again. The light on the carpet softened as a small cloud passed outside. Time did not truly stop, it slowed so everyone could think. Alina's hands were calm. Michael's heartbeat found a steady rhythm. Naomi's notebook rested open on her lap. A page showed a short list in a child's neat writing: favorite color? Favorite ice cream? Favorite season? Do you laugh loud? Do you like books? Grace reached into her bag and pulled out a small folder with a few papers. She did not open it yet. She simply held it, like someone holding a key and waiting for the right lock. She looked at Michael. "We will talk," she said. "Not here, not in front of everyone. But we will talk." Michael nodded. "Yes," he said. "We will talk." He swallowed. He tried to say the next sentence carefully. "I did not know," he said. "But I will listen." From the ballroom, a child's car rolled into the aisle and a parent laughed softly and rolled it back. The small, ordinary sound reached the salon and made everyone smile for a heartbeat. It was a reminder that life still moved. It was a reminder that even on big days, tiny simple moments kept the world gentle. The officiant looked around the circle and gave a small, guiding nod. "Let's do this," he said. We will pause the ceremony. We will give you a private room with privacy and time. We can ask guests to stay for refreshments. There is no need to hurry a decision. He spoke as if he were laying soft stepping stones across a stream. Alina stood and lifted her bouquet again. She looked at Michael and then at Naomi. We will choose the right order, she said. Truth first. Wedding later, if it is right. Her voice was calm, not cold. It was the voice she used when saving people in chaos. It was the voice that had made Michael love her. They all stepped back into the hall. The planner met them with careful eyes. Michael walked to the front of the ballroom. He did not make a speech yet. He looked at the photograph on the program cover, the same one Naomi had seen in the shop window. He slipped the program into his pocket. For a long moment, he stared at the image of his smiling face beside Alina's. Then, slowly, he lifted his eyes and looked toward the doors where Naomi stood with her mother, holding a folded flyer that matched the photo on his own fridge. Grace arrived with quick steps and a hand pressed to her chest. She said sorry to the planner at the door, sorry to the usher, sorry to the officiant, as if she could sweep the room smooth with that one word. When she reached Naomi, she placed both hands on her daughter's shoulders and whispered, "I'm here." The neighbor gave a small nod, said she would wait outside if needed, and stepped back toward the hall. Inside the side salon, the air felt cooler and quieter than the ballroom. A round table, a small couch, a tray with water glasses, ordinary things holding an unordinary moment. Grace took one long breath and looked at Michael and then at Alina. "We did not come to ruin your day," she said. "She saw a poster with your photo in a shop window yesterday and would not stop asking. I told her we would not make a scene. We only came to look and leave." She touched Naomi's braid, gentle and steady. "She is brave, but she is still only 8. Michael stood by the doorframe, as if the wood could hold him up if his knees forgot how. He nodded once, then again. "I understand," he said. He did not move closer. He did not demand answers. He made space with his body, the way you pull back a chair for someone who needs to sit. Alina's face was calm. She watched like a nurse watching a monitor, quiet, alert, already caring. She pulled a chair so Grace could sit. "You are safe here," she said. "No one will rush you or your daughter." Her voice was soft but had a strong center, the kind that could hold a room. The officiant, who had seen many kinds of love and many kinds of trouble, kept his tone simple. "We can pause the ceremony," he said. "Guests can have refreshments in the foyer. There is no need to make decisions while the clock is loud." He stepped out, spoke to the planner, and returned with news. The music would stop, drinks would be served, and a kind waiter would keep the children happy with juice and cookies. Grace opened the small folder she had carried like a secret. Inside were a few thin papers, an old printed email, a photo from 9 years ago where she and Michael looked sunlit and young, and Naomi's birth certificate with the father line blank. She placed the folder on the table but kept her hand on it. "I moved that year," she said. "Everything was fast and messy. I changed numbers. I did not know how to reach him again. I had work. I had school. I had pride. I had fear." She swallowed. When Naomi started asking harder questions this year, her teacher said honesty would help. "I promised her I would try." Michael's throat felt tight. He did not reach for the folder. He reached for memory. That small apartment with the leaning porch. A last dinner with a paper bag of takeout noodles. Their goodbye at a bus stop, both saying later without a date. He remembered trying 2 calls that never rang through, then telling himself the door had closed and he should not push it open. He had folded that summer like a shirt and placed it on a shelf. Devon stood quietly near the wall. He had been Michael's friend since they wore backpacks bigger than their chests. Now he kept watch like a good doorman, eyes open, mouth closed until words would help. "Let's write down steps," he said at last, practical as ever. 1. Respect this child. 2. Gather facts. 3. Move slow in front of people and quick when it comes to care. 4. Make a plan for after today. Patricia hovered in the hall, then stepped in, then stopped as if the carpet were a line she should not cross. Her eyes flicked to the folder, to Grace, to Naomi, and finally to her son. She had dreamed of a perfect ceremony. She had promised herself to smile through any small mess. This did not feel small. "We can begin the ceremony and handle this later," she said softly, careful not to let the sentence sound like a command. "There are many guests. There is a schedule." She looked at Alina. "We can keep the day kind." Alina stood. She was not angry. She was not cold. She simply knew her order of values and had never rearranged them for convenience. "I will not make vows while a child stands here with these questions," she said. "We can ask people to wait. We can feed them. We can speak truth first." Her eyes moved to Naomi, who had opened her notebook again. "And we can do it gently." Naomi's notebook had lines filled with neat, simple words. She looked up at Michael. "Favorite color?" she asked, almost a whisper, as if a small question could test a big door. Michael let himself smile, small and honest. "Green," he said. "Yours?" Naomi thought. "Sky blue," she said. "Favorite ice cream?" she added quickly, like a child catching a rhythm. "Mint chip," he said. "Yours?" "Vanilla with sprinkles," she answered, serious and bright at once. Grace let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Alina felt the room soften by 1 degree. In the ballroom, a cousin lifted a phone half an inch, eyes bright with curiosity more than harm. The planner touched his elbow and spoke in a whisper that carried respect. "No recording today," she said. "Let's keep this moment private for the family." The cousin lowered the phone. He looked a little ashamed and a little relieved. A sign on the welcome table soon read, "Thank you for your kindness and patience, please, no photos or videos at this time." People nodded and poured more water. The officiant returned with an update. "Everyone is calm," he said. "I told them there will be a delay and thanked them for their grace." He looked around the small circle in the salon. "We do not have to solve everything today. We only have to choose the next right step." Michael shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He felt heavy with the past and light with the truth at the same time. He blinked and looked at Grace. "I did not know," he said. "I should have tried harder to find you. I am sorry I did not." His voice stayed steady by choice, not by luck. "If a test is needed, we do a test. If help is needed, I help. I will not hide from this." Grace's shoulders eased, not because everything was fixed, but because the air in the room had changed. "Thank you," she said simply. "I never wanted money. I never wanted trouble. I wanted clarity for my daughter." She placed one finger on the blank line on the certificate. "I wanted to fill this line with something true. Or to explain why it could not be filled." Patricia leaned on the doorframe. She had given her life to order, bills paid on time, skirts pressed, birthdays remembered. She looked at Naomi's face, the dimples that came and went like tiny, brave lights. "What happens to the wedding?" she asked, almost to herself. Devon answered gently. "For now, we press pause," he said. "People can eat. We can cover their taxis if they leave. We do not make promises while our hearts are not sure how to count the chairs at the table." Alina turned to Naomi. "Would you like a glass of water?" she asked. Naomi nodded. Alina poured and held the cup with both hands so it would not shake. "Would you like to draw while we talk?" she added. Naomi's eyes brightened. "Yes, please. Alina pulled a pen from her small emergency pouch. She always carried one, nurses know why, and a folded note card. Naomi began to draw a simple scene, 3 stick figures holding hands, a sun in the corner, a tree with round leaves. She drew slow, careful lines, as if each line were a word she wanted to measure. Michael watched the picture take shape. A warmth he did not yet know how to name moved under his ribs. He looked at Alina, and in that look there was both apology and gratitude. She met his eyes, not to comfort him, not to scold him, but to tell him silently, I am here for truth. Walk with me toward it. From the foyer came a light hum of talk. An aunt told a story to a small cluster of cousins. A friend from work made a joke about ties that were too tight and weddings that start late. A child asked if cookies count as lunch. The hotel staff moved like soft wind, refilling water, offering fruit, making the pause feel like part of the plan. The officiant pulled 2 chairs closer together for Grace and Michael. If you wish, he said, you can exchange numbers now and set a time to meet tomorrow morning. There is a community clinic nearby that can help with testing. Decisions about the ceremony can come after facts. He looked at Alina. You set the pace. She nodded. Facts first. Patricia started to say something, then stopped. She walked over to Naomi and, with care, bent to the child's height. I am Michael's mother, she said. My name is Patricia. She pressed a hand to her chest and smiled in a quiet way. You are brave. Thank you for using your voice. Would you like a small candy? She held out a wrapped mint like an offering to a small queen. Naomi looked at her mother. Grace nodded once. Naomi took the candy and said, Thank you, ma'am. Patricia blinked fast, then stood up and stepped back, hand covering her mouth for a second so her feelings would not spill. Devon texted the DJ, who replied with a thumbs up and a note, We've got gentle jazz. People are chill. Devon sent back a thank you and the promise to update soon. He felt the simple power of a plan: inform people, feed people, protect people. Grace slid the old email printout across the table. This is from that summer, she said. We were both bad at keeping plans. We were young. Michael glanced at the date and smiled at the memory of a shared joke in the subject line. The smile did not deny the weight in the room, it added history to it. I remember, he said. I fixed your porch light. Grace laughed softly. It flickered again after you left, she said, and for 1 second the past felt like a place with open windows, not locked doors. Alina listened to the small details. She understood how tiny facts can anchor big feelings. She catalogued what mattered: dates, moves, attempts to connect, the teacher's advice about honesty, Naomi's questions, the blank line on the certificate. She also held the human pieces: a mother's pride, a child's courage, a man's shock, a family's need for dignity. The planner knocked lightly and peeked in. I can ask the florist to move the arch to the corner and set up a snack table under it, she said, practical and kind. It will look intentional. Alina thanked her. Please do, she replied. The planner nodded. And we put a little sign about no photos, she added. People are respecting it. She left the door cracked, like an invitation for air. Michael took a pen and wrote his phone number on a card. He slid it to Grace. She wrote hers and slid it back. The small exchange felt like a new hinge on an old door. Naomi looked up from her drawing. What is your favorite season? She asked, one more question from the list. Michael thought. Late spring, he said. When trees change fast. Naomi nodded as if that answer made sense inside her. The officiant looked at the clock but did not mention it. Time had lost its usual power. The room followed a different clock now, one that counted breaths and brave sentences. He folded his hands and said, When you are ready, I can speak to your guests and ask for privacy for the rest of the day. I can tell them there will be an update later. He paused. Or Michael can tell them. Or Alina. Or no one yet. Alina stood. She smoothed the front of her dress, not to be perfect but to be steady. She looked at Michael and then at Grace. I will stand with you while we figure out our next steps, she said. But I will not say my vows until we have the full truth. Her eyes were kind and firm together. She turned to Naomi and touched the edge of the drawing. This is beautiful, she said. Thank you for sharing it. Naomi folded the drawing and held it out. It's for you, she said to Alina. So you remember I didn't want to break anything. I just wanted to see. Alina's throat tightened. She took the picture like a promise and tucked it into her small emergency pouch, where she usually kept bandages and pens. I will remember, she said. Grace closed the folder and held it to her chest. Michael put his phone away again. Devon opened the door and let in a stripe of brighter light from the hall. The planner smiled from a few steps away, ready to guide guests wherever the day would go. Patricia stood a little straighter, having learned a new kind of pride, the kind that protects truth even when it delays celebration. They did not have answers to every question. They had the next right step and a shared decision to move with care. As they rose from their chairs, Alina said the words that would set the course of everything that followed, in a voice that was gentle and sure, truth first. Wedding later if it is right. The planner returned with a soft smile that tried to hold the room together. She said the foyer was ready with tea, coffee, and small plates. She said children were coloring at a table near the window. She said people were calm and kind. Then she looked to Michael and Alina as if to ask, what next? The answer was not in a rule book. It was in their faces. Michael took a breath and stepped toward the doorway. He paused and looked back at Grace and Naomi. I will speak to the guests, he said. I will ask for time. Grace nodded. Naomi closed her notebook and pressed it to her chest like a small, brave shield. Alina stood beside Michael and touched his arm for 1 second. It was not a romantic touch. It was a steadying touch, the kind you give someone about to walk onto a stage where truth is the script. They walked into the ballroom together, not as a perfect couple but as people who were choosing honesty. The music had stopped. The flowers still looked happy. Guests turned in their seats with open faces. Some had questions in their eyes, others had quiet prayers. The officiant stood at the front and gave a small nod, offering the room to Michael. Michael stood where he would have stood for vows. He held the microphone the way he held tools at work, firm, careful, with respect. Friends and family, he said, voice clear but gentle, thank you for being here. We need to pause the ceremony. A soft ripple moved through the chairs, not anger, not shock, more like a shared inhale. Something important has come up, he continued. We are going to take time to listen and to tell the truth. We will keep you updated. Please enjoy the food. Please be kind. Please do not take photos or videos. We want to protect a child's dignity. He lowered the microphone and looked to Alina. She took it with steady hands. Thank you for your patience, she said. We do not need advice right now. We only need your grace. If we reschedule, you will be the first to know. She offered a small bow of thanks to the room. The officiant took the mic and added, there are snacks in the foyer. Anyone who needs special help, please see the planner. We will communicate again soon. People stood and began to move with care, like a tide that knows where it is going. Back in the side salon, the stillness returned. Devon slipped in after making sure the DJ and planner had what they needed. All good out there, he said. Low voices. Many hugs. Zero drama. He held up his empty hands like proof. Patricia stood a little closer now. Her face looked different, less sharp around the edges, more human. May I bring juice for Naomi? She asked. Grace said yes. Patricia left and came back with a small cup and a napkin folded into a neat square. Naomi said thank you again, so polite it made everyone's throats tighten. The group sat. The round table became a small island of decisions. Devon opened his notes app. Clinic, he said. We need a place and a time. Grace named a community clinic she trusted. They do weekend hours, she said. If we call now, we might get a morning slot. Michael pulled out his phone, then looked to Grace for approval. She nodded. He called, spoke to the desk with clear words, and asked about a paternity test. The person on the line gave instructions and a time, tomorrow morning at 9. Michael repeated it aloud so everyone could hear. 9 a.m., he said. He put the address in a group text with Grace and Devon, then added Alina at Grace's gentle nod. Alina wrote the time on a sticky note, then put the note with Naomi's drawing in her small pouch. We will meet there, she said. We will go together. We will bring snacks and water. We will bring patience. She looked at Naomi. Do you have anything you want to ask before we end for today? Naomi looked at her list again. The last line said, do you laugh loud? She lifted her head. Do you laugh loud? She asked Michael, almost shy, almost smiling. Michael let out a laugh that was louder than the room expected and kinder than he felt. Yes, he said, a little red in the face. I do. Naomi's mouth curled into a small grin that showed both dimples. Grace laughed, too, not loud, but full. Alina smiled and covered her mouth with two fingers like she always did when Joy surprised her. Patricia, at the door, laughed into her hand and wiped one eye with a tissue she seemed to pull out of nowhere. Even the officiant laughed quietly, as if Joy had found a polite way to knock. Devon cleared his throat. There will be costs, he said, practical again. The vendors, the hall, the flowers. Michael nodded. I'll take care of it, he said. We can't use people's time without saying thank you in a real way. Alina added, please also ask the planner to send an email to guests tonight. I will write a note she can include. Short, kind, thankful. Devon typed a reminder, pay vendors. Email guests. Thank staff. Truth first language. The planner peeked in again. Do you want me to make an announcement that people can head home if they need to? She asked. The officiant said yes and asked that taxis be called for anyone elderly. The planner nodded. We'll prepare small boxes so guests can take cake slices, she added, doing what planners do best, turning sharp moments into soft edges. Time passed in small steps. Patricia and the neighbor spoke quietly and found common ground over stories of school projects and hair braiding days. Naomi drew another picture, this time a tree with a tire swing. She did not say who was on the swing. She did not have to. Grace watched her daughter draw and then watched Michael watching her daughter. It was like watching a bridge get built plank by plank, not fast, not loud, and strong because each piece was checked. Alina and Michael stepped into the hallway for a moment of private talk. The carpet muffled their steps, the air smelled faintly of roses and coffee. I am not leaving, Michael said first, simple and honest. I am here. I will be here tomorrow. I will be here after that. Alina met his eyes. I know, she said. And I am not punishing you. I am protecting our future and a child's heart. I won't stand in a white dress and speak forever words while there is a question on the table. But I will walk with you to the clinic. I will stand near you when you face what is true. He nodded and swallowed. Thank you, he said. For staying real. They did not hug. They did not kiss. They stood a foot apart and somehow felt closer than before. When they returned to the salon, the officiant proposed one more step. Let's put what we have agreed in simple words, he said. So we all hold the same map. He spoke slowly, counting on his fingers. 1. The ceremony is paused. 2. Guests are thanked and cared for. 3. Tomorrow at 9, you go to the clinic together. 4. You wait for results with privacy. 5. After results, you decide the path forward with care. Everyone nodded. Naomi nodded, too, even if she did not fully understand the clinic part. She understood the words together and care. They were good words. Patricia surprised herself and asked, "May I say something to the guests?" The officiant considered her, then nodded. "If you keep it short and kind," he said. Patricia smiled at the strictness in his gentle voice. "Short and kind," she agreed. She walked to the foyer and spoke to small clusters. She thanked them for their love. She asked again for privacy. She told a funny two-sentence story about Michael as a boy who tried to fix a toaster and made the kitchen smell like hot pennies. Laughter rolled like a soft wave, and with it came relief. Devon arranged rides for the bridal party and for Grace and Naomi. He asked the hotel to put a private note on the front desk, "No media inquiries." He was not sure there would be any, but he preferred to be ready. He also asked the planner to pack up the rings and store them in the hotel safe. The planner did so, adding labels like a librarian of fragile things. As the room emptied little by little, the hotel manager came to the salon and said there would be no fee for the extra use of rooms. "Family matters," she said, eyes warm. "We all understand." Michael thanked her and shook her hand with both of his. Alina thanked her, too, and asked for a quiet exit route for Grace and Naomi. The manager guided them to a side elevator that opened near a small courtyard with jasmine growing on the wall. Before they left, Naomi stood on tiptoe and handed Alina the second drawing, the tree with the tire swing. "For you," she said. "But you can share it." Alina crouched and met the child's eyes. "I will keep it safe," she promised. Then Naomi looked at Michael and lifted her hand for a small wave. He waved back, then bent a little and said, "See you in the morning at 9. Naomi nodded, serious again. "At 9, she repeated. She liked exact times. They made the world feel fair. Grace thanked everyone. She shook Michael's hand, then Alina's. "We will be there," she said. "Thank you for calm." Patricia stepped forward, unsure what to do with her feelings, and gave Grace a soft, old-fashioned curtsy that made them both laugh. "You don't have to be formal," Grace said with a smile that had survived many storms. "But thank you." They left through the side elevator, the neighbor at their shoulder, a small team moving with gentle purpose. When the door closed, the salon felt like a stage after a play, the set still up, the energy still buzzing, but the actors gone home to rest. Michael sat. He put his head in his hands for exactly 3 breaths, then lifted it. "Thank you," he said to the room, Devon, the officiant, Patricia, the planner who had slipped in with the last checklist, and Alina. "Thank you for making space." The officiant touched his shoulder. "Space is a gift," he said. "You gave it to yourself, to the child, to the woman you love. That is wisdom." Devon bumped his fist against Michael's elbow. "Tomorrow," he said. "We do tomorrow." Patricia pressed a mint into Michael's palm like he was still her boy. "For the ride," she said. Alina gathered her things. She asked the planner if the dress could be kept at the hotel overnight. The planner said yes and promised it would be safe and steamed in case it was needed in days or months. Alina smiled and said thank you again and again. Gratitude held the edges while truth took the center. They walked out together into the twilight. The sky had turned the color of clean dishes stacked by a window, soft blue, soft silver. A light breeze moved the leaves along the sidewalk. It felt like the day itself had taken a breath after holding one too long. Michael and Alina stood by the hotel steps for a moment, neither in a hurry to break the quiet. Cars came and went. Laughter floated from the foyer where an aunt told another story, this time about a hat that kept blowing away at a beach trip years ago. Devon called the clinic again to confirm, then texted, "We're booked 9 a.m. bring IDs." He added a little check mark emoji that made Alina smile, though she did not use many emojis. Patricia hugged her son and then hugged Alina with a care that asked permission. Alina hugged her back, steady and warm. "We will be all right," Patricia whispered. Alina answered, "We will be honest." It was the same thing, in her language. A ride-share pulled up for Alina. She looked at Michael. "Sleep," she said. "Eat something warm. Put your phone on silent for a few hours." He nodded and almost saluted, a shy habit when he was trying to be brave. "You too," he said. She opened the car door, then closed it again and turned back. "One more thing," she said. "Thank you for stopping the ceremony. That was the right choice." He swallowed. "It felt like the only choice," he said. "But thank you." She got into the car. He watched the car turn the corner and disappear into the simple grid of evening streets. He felt the world both bigger and smaller than it had been that morning. Bigger because new love had entered in the shape of a child's serious face. Smaller because the next 24 hours now had a single point on the map, a clinic door at 9. Michael walked to his own car with Devon. They did not talk much. Devon drove one loop around the block so Michael could look once at the hotel with its lights like patient stars. Then he dropped him at home and said, "Text me if you can't sleep." "I'll answer." Michael promised he would try to rest. In her apartment, Alina laid the drawings on the table and smoothed them flat with both hands. She wrote 9:00 a.m. clinic on a fresh sticky note and put it on the door so she would see it when she left in the morning. She made tea and stared out at the city. Her heart felt tired but clean. She whispered to the quiet room, "Truth first." The room, being a room, said nothing. But the quiet felt friendly. Across town, Grace tucked Naomi into bed. "Big day," she said. "Bigger tomorrow," Naomi replied with sleepy honesty. Grace kissed her forehead and sat on the edge of the bed until her breathing deepened. Then she stood up, looked at the small backpack by the door, and added a granola bar and a crayon, as if the right snacks and the right color could help the morning be kind. Night moved through the city with its usual soft steps. The hotel staff folded chairs. The planner sent one last email and closed her laptop. The officiant ironed his shirt for the morning, because being ready is a habit. Patricia wrote a list on an index card titled "Ways to Help that are actually helpful." Devon set 3 alarms. Michael put his phone face down and, for the first time all day, let his eyes close. The last picture in his mind before sleep was a notebook page with simple questions and a small voice asking them with courage. Morning would come soon enough, and with it a clinic door and a new chapter. For now, the city held its breath in a quiet that felt like a promise. Tomorrow at 9. Morning arrived clear and sharp, the kind of blue sky that makes buildings look freshly washed. Michael woke before his alarm. He stood at the kitchen counter and buttered toast he did not eat. He packed a bottle of water, a granola bar, and a plain notebook. He folded the suit jacket over a chair and chose a simple shirt. He put the ring box in a drawer and closed it gently. Then he opened the drawer again and took the box back out, not to use, but because leaving it behind felt like pretending. He slipped it into his pocket with the notebook and whispered to the quiet room, "Truth first." Across town, Alina dressed in soft clothes and tied her hair back the way she did for long shifts. She laid Naomi's 2 drawings on the table and looked at them for a full minute. She put them in a flat envelope so they would not bend. She filled a small bag with tissues, 2 pens, hand wipes, and a sleeve of crackers. She wrote 9:00 a.m. clinic on her palm even though she did not need a reminder. Then she locked the door and walked to the street, where the city was just waking up with the sound of rolling shutters and first buses. Grace moved quietly through her small kitchen so she would not wake Naomi too early. She poured coffee she did not sip and checked her phone twice. At 7:30, she went into Naomi's room and sat on the edge of the bed. "Good morning, Star," she said. Naomi blinked, sat up, and reached for her notebook before her slippers. She wrote 9:00 on the top line and drew a tiny clock beside it. "We will go together," Grace said. "And we will take deep breaths. That is our plan." Naomi nodded and began to braid her own hair, a task that made her feel steady. By 8:40, everyone was at the clinic. The building was small and bright with posters about kindness and health. A fish tank bubbled in the corner. A woman at the front desk wore a pin that said, "Here to help." She spoke in a voice that made people relax. "Good morning," she said. "You must be the 9 o'clock." She passed a clipboard to Grace. "We'll need consent forms signed by the parent and acknowledgement forms for the test. It's a simple cheek swab." Michael stood half a step behind, hands still, breathing slow. Devon touched his elbow and then stepped back to give space. Patricia arrived 2 minutes later, carrying a small paper bag with muffins. She looked at Grace as if asking permission to stay. Grace nodded. "Thank you," she said. Patricia exhaled, as if she had been holding her breath since yesterday. They sat in a cluster of chairs that faced a big window. A young volunteer offered coloring pages to Naomi. She chose a picture of a tree and a swing. Alina sat beside her and slid the packet of crackers across. "After the swab," she said softly. Naomi nodded and colored in slow strokes that did not go outside the lines. A nurse called their names and led them to a small room with 2 chairs and a counter with labeled swabs. She explained each step in simple words. "This is quick," she said. "It doesn't hurt. We rub the soft tip on the inside of your cheek, then seal it in a tube." She smiled at Naomi. "You can count Mississippis while we do it. That helps." Naomi smiled back, liking the sound of a word that felt like a river. Grace signed forms, then handed the pen to Michael. His hand was steady when he wrote his name. The nurse swabbed Naomi first. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, Naomi counted, eyes on Alina's face. Alina counted with her in a whisper, their mouths moving like a duet. Then the nurse swabbed Michael. He closed his eyes for 3 seconds, then opened them and looked at Naomi as if to say, "We are in this together." The nurse sealed the tubes, checked labels twice, and placed them in a tray. "Results later today," she said. "We'll call you. You can also wait if you prefer, sometimes the lab is fast on weekends." She looked at their faces and added, "We have a quiet room if you want privacy." They chose to wait. The quiet room had a window that looked out on a small courtyard with a jasmine vine that climbed a wall. The air smelled faintly sweet when the door opened. A basket held simple toys and a few books. Naomi picked up a slim book about trees and sat cross-legged on the carpet. Alina knelt beside her and read the first page, then let Naomi read the second. Grace texted the neighbor, "We're here. All calm." The neighbor replied with emojis: sun, heart, tree, and a promise to bring soup later. Devon went to get tea and came back with a tray. He handed Michael a cup, then gave Patricia a muffin as if offering a medal. Patricia accepted it with a small, shy smile. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't know what kind to bring." "All kinds are right," Devon said. He meant muffins. He also meant people. The first hour was slow and kind. They spoke in small pieces. Grace told a story about Naomi's first day of kindergarten, how she had lined up all her pencils by color. Michael told a story about fixing a wobbly table for a neighbor who paid him with a pie. Alina listened and stored the details like pearls on a string. Patricia told a story about Michael as a toddler, how he used to laugh so hard he would hiccup. Naomi laughed just imagining it and tried to hiccup on purpose, then giggled when it did not work. The second hour was quieter. Waiting has its own sound, pages turning, a chair shifting, a phone buzzing and then being silenced. At one point, Michael stood and walked to the window. The jasmine leaves trembled in a breeze he could not feel. He placed his hand on the glass as if measuring the distance between two worlds, the world he had yesterday and the one that might begin today. Around noon, the nurse returned with a folder and a careful face that did not give the answer away. She set the folder on the table and looked at Grace. "Would you like me to explain the results?" she asked, "or would you prefer to read first?" Grace looked at Michael, then at Alina, then at Naomi, who watched with wide, calm eyes. "Please explain," Grace said. The nurse opened the folder and turned the paper to face them. She pointed to a line with numbers and simple words. "The result shows a probability of 99.9% that Michael is Naomi's biological father." Silence arrived like a soft blanket. No one grabbed it. No one threw it off. It lay over the room and warmed and weighed at the same time. Michael's breath caught. He nodded once, then again. He pressed his thumb to the edge of the table as if to keep from floating. Grace closed her eyes and opened them. She reached for Naomi's hand and squeezed it twice. Alina's face did not break or harden. It opened, the way a window opens on a day that needs fresh air. Naomi looked at Michael. "So, it's yes?" she asked, wanting plain words. Michael's voice was thick but sure. "Yes," he said. "It's yes." Naomi nodded, as if checking a box on a list she had carefully made. Then she whispered, "Okay," and looked down at her coloring page. She added a small bird to a branch. Her hands did not shake. Patricia pressed a tissue to one eye, then the other. She took a step toward Grace and stopped, not wanting to crowd. "Thank you for bringing her," she said softly. "Thank you for choosing today." Grace's mouth trembled and then steadied. "I chose because she asked," she said. "And because truth is light." Michael spoke to the nurse, voice pulling itself into useful shape. "What do we do next?" he asked. The nurse gave a small list, a copy of the report, a suggestion to contact the Vital Records office about updating the birth certificate, information about counseling services for families in transition. She spoke with warm clarity, the kind that makes hard steps feel like ordinary tasks. "Also," she added, "consider telling the school together, so the message is the same and the child feels supported." They all nodded. A shared map was forming, even while feelings were still catching up. When the nurse left, Michael turned to Grace. "I will take responsibility," he said. "Not just money. Time. Presence. Whatever Naomi needs. I'm here." Grace searched his face for the shape of that promise and found it clear. "We will set a schedule," she said. "We will ask Naomi what feels safe. We will move slowly." Naomi looked up. "Can there be ice cream sometimes?" she asked, simple as a bell. "Yes," Michael said. "There can be ice cream." Then Michael turned to Alina. The room felt smaller, not because the air was tight, but because the moment was big. "I am sorry," he said. "For the shock. For the break in the day that should have been about your joy. I can't change the past. I can only be honest now. I love you. I want to marry you. And I also want to be the father Naomi needs. I know those two loves can live in one house, but not if they are built on hurry or fear." He stopped. The words had come out cleaner than he expected, maybe because they were true. Alina let the quiet sit before answering. "I love you," she said. "And I am proud of what you did yesterday and today. You stopped the ceremony to honor the truth. That matters to me." She drew a breath. "But I will not marry you today. Not next week. We need time, all of us. I need to know who we are with Naomi in the picture every day, not just when the room is calm. I need to see you show up as a father and see how that changes our daily life. She placed her hand on the envelope where the drawings lay. I am not leaving. I am asking for space to build. I am asking for counseling. I am asking for patient steps. Michael nodded. He had prepared for many answers. He had hoped for a fast yes and knew a fast yes would not be real. Okay, he said. Space. Counseling. Patient steps. His eyes shone, not with happy tears or sad tears, but with the kind of clean water that comes when a person knows the road will be long and walks it anyway. Devon checked his phone and then cleared his throat. The park, he asked gently. Do you want a place and a time to talk more, without white walls and ticking clocks? Alina looked at Grace. Maple Park, she said, remembering the quiet path and the bench near the pond. 5 o'clock. Come as you are. No speeches. Just real talk. Grace nodded. We will be there. Michael looked at Naomi. Would you like to come, too? He asked. Naomi tilted her head. Can I bring my notebook? Of course, he said. She smiled. Then yes. They packed up small things, the coloring page, the report tucked in a discreet folder, the empty muffin bag, the used tissues thrown away so no one had to carry them. Patricia asked the nurse if she could leave a thank you card at the front desk later. The nurse smiled and said it wasn't necessary. Patricia said she would anyway. Outside, the day had warmed. The jasmine in the courtyard smelled stronger in the sun. They stood together for a moment, a new shape of family making its first shadow on the ground. Then they drifted toward cars and buses and sidewalks that led to their different kitchens and living rooms. On the drive home, Michael kept one hand on the steering wheel and one flat on the folder beside him, as if the paper might slide away if he did not anchor it. At a red light, he reached into his pocket and touched the ring box. He did not open it. He only held it for a second, then put it back and whispered, "Not yet." At her apartment, Alina took out the drawings and placed them beside the clinic report. Two truths, both on paper, a child's hope and a line of numbers. She made tea and opened her calendar. She typed the words family counseling research and talked to charge nurse about schedule flexibility and read about blended families. She did not make big plans. She made small, kind ones. Grace set a bowl of soup in front of Naomi and sliced an apple. 5 o'clock, she said. Maple Park. Naomi nodded, mouth full of soup, and wrote 5:00 Park in her notebook with a little tree drawn next to it. What do we talk about? She asked. We listen, Grace said. We ask for what we need. We say yes or no in clear words. We remember we are safe. Patricia went home and pulled out a box of old photos. She chose 3 that showed Michael at different ages, laughing. She put them in a small envelope with a note, for Naomi, if she wants stories. She put the envelope by the door so she would not forget. At 4:40, Michael left his apartment with the folder in his pocket, the ring box beside it, and no grand plan except to tell the truth again. He walked to Maple Park along a street that smelled like fresh bread from a bakery and engine oil from a passing bus. He reached the bench near the pond at 4:55 and sat. He placed both hands on his knees to keep them still. A duck cut a slow path through the green water, leaving a V shape behind it. He looked at the path and thought, this is what today is, a shape we make by moving forward. He heard footsteps behind him and turned. The hardest conversation was about to begin. Michael stood as he heard the footsteps on the gravel path. Grace and Naomi came first, hand in hand. Alina followed a few steps behind, carrying a small tote bag. The evening light softened the park into a watercolor, trees leaning over the pond, ducks making slow ripples, joggers moving like quiet metronomes. A wind bell on a nearby porch rang once, then rested. They greeted each other without fuss. No speeches, just soft hi and you made it. They chose a bench long enough for all of them. Michael sat at the end, then shifted so Naomi would have the middle, a small decision that felt right. Alina sat beside Naomi on one side. Grace sat on the other side, her arm easy around her daughter's shoulders. The four of them made a line that looked simple and felt brave. For a moment, no one spoke. They watched a duck tug a bit of grass and then let it go. A boy on a scooter clattered past and waved at the world. The wind touched the surface of the pond and turned it into tiny scales of light. The quiet did not feel heavy. It felt like a table set before a meal. Alina broke the silence in the way she knew best, with clear, kind steps. "We came to listen first," she said. "Naomi, if you want to say anything, you go first. Then the grown ups can talk." Naomi nodded and opened her notebook. She had written a list called Things I Need. The letters leaned forward, all trying their best. She read in a steady voice. 1. I want to know it is not my fault I came to the wedding. 2. I want to see Michael sometimes but not all at once too many times. 3. I want ice cream sometimes but not only ice cream because tooth holes. 4. I want everyone to be kind to my mom. 5. I want Alina to be my friend if she wants. 6. I want to know who picks me up at school on which days so my stomach does not feel twisty. She looked up, eyes clear. That is all for now. Michael swallowed. Thank you, he said. None of this is your fault. You were brave, and you told the truth. I can promise number 2, number 3, and number 6 for sure. I will learn number 4 and number 5 with your help. Alina smiled at Naomi. I want to be your friend, she said. I will move slow and ask before I do things. We can draw, or read, or share crackers. Naomi nodded, satisfied with crackers as a friendship plan. Grace let out a breath she had been saving. Thank you, she said. Here is what I need. She kept her words simple. I need stability for Naomi. A schedule, clear and written. I need respect for our routines: bedtime, homework, Saturday library. I need financial support that is steady, not promises that wobble. And I need privacy. People love to talk. We will not feed talking. She glanced at Alina, then Michael. I also need to be seen as a whole person, not only a problem from the past. I am a mother, a worker, a friend. I am trying very hard. Michael nodded. You are seen, he said. We will write the schedule together. I will support Naomi, and I will do it with receipts and dates so nothing is foggy. We can both sign the plan. He reached into his pocket and took out the small notebook he had packed that morning. He wrote plan at the top of the first page. I like lists, he said, a little embarrassed. Naomi grinned. Me too. Alina kept the structure. Here is what I need, she said. Honesty, even when it is awkward. A shared calendar we all check, so no one is surprised. Counseling for the adults and, if needed, for Naomi, with a person who understands blended families. And time. She met Michael's eyes. Time to let this become normal instead of sudden. Time to make space for Naomi without losing us. I will not rush. I will not run. Michael's shoulders softened. Yes, he said. To all of it. He wrote each word: honesty, calendar, counseling, time, like small anchors. Then he reached into his other pocket and touched the ring box. He did not pull it out. He looked at Alina and said the one sentence that mattered for now. I can wait. They set to work as the sun leaned lower. Grace suggested 2 weekday afternoons for Michael to pick Naomi up from school and a Saturday morning twice a month for longer time together, parks, museums, simple outings. We can build from there, she said. Slow is steady. Michael agreed. I will meet your teacher with you, he told Naomi. We can tell her together. Naomi's stomach untwisted at the word together. They talked about small things that mattered much. Who had the spare inhaler? Me, Grace said. We will make you one, too. Where did Naomi keep her art supplies? A blue bin under my bed. What kind of ice cream counted as sometimes? Any, Naomi said, with sprinkles. Who would tell Patricia? I will, Michael said. She's already making a small envelope of photos. Naomi smiled at the word photos the way children smile at new crayons. After the practical list came the tender list. Michael told a story he had not planned to tell about the night he fixed a neighbor's table and the neighbor paid him with a pie he carried home like a trophy. Alina told a story about a patient who loved birds and how they played bird songs on a phone to calm him. Grace told a story about Naomi's first school play and how she was a tree and waved so hard her leaves fell off. Naomi told a story about a dream where she floated above the city and drew lines in the sky that became roads. The stories made a small rope between them. The park light turned honey gold. The ducks tucked their beaks into their wings. A man threw a frisbee to a dog who missed it on purpose and wagged as if he had won. Michael took the clinic report out of his pocket and the ring box beside it, both wrapped in a careful fold of his handkerchief. He placed them on his knee, not to display, but to honor both truths. This is what I have, he said quietly. Proof and promise. The order will be, child first, love second, wedding when it is honest to our whole life. He looked at Alina, then at Grace. I hope we can build something steady. Alina touched the envelope where Naomi's drawings waited. We can, she said. One brick at a time. Naomi leaned against her mother and yawned. The day had been big. Grace kissed the top of her head. Time to go home, she said. We have library in the morning. They all stood. There was no grand goodbye, just small plans confirmed and a promise to text when home. As they walked away, Naomi turned and waved. Bye, she said. See you on Tuesday for pickup, and Saturday for maybe ice cream. Michael saluted with a smile. Tuesday, Saturday, he said, learning the rhythm by heart. The next weeks moved like careful music. On Tuesday, Michael was early for school pickup by 10 minutes and waited under the shade tree by the gate. He had a small snack ready, apple slices and a tiny box of raisins. He asked about math facts and listened to a long report about a class pet snail who never did anything and yet was loved. He took Naomi to the park and then brought her home on time, with homework done and a joke to share. Grace watched through the peephole for 30 seconds before opening the door. Old habits need time. She thanked him. He wrote down the time on his notebook, not to keep score, but to keep pattern. Saturday, they went to the museum with the dinosaur bones. Naomi stood under the tall skeleton and tried to stand just as big. Michael taught her how to read the small plagues. She taught him how to spot the gift shop from very far away. They shared vanilla with sprinkles and mint chip after a walk around the block, because rules said ice cream comes after moving legs. When Michael brought her home, Alina came over for tea at the kitchen table. They three adults talked about school projects, reading logs, and where to hang a calendar. None of the words were fancy. All of the words were kind. Counseling began on a Thursday evening. The counselor had a soft chair and a way of asking questions that made people want to answer. What does support look like, not just sound like, she asked. What are your stop signs? Michael learned to say, I need 5 minutes to think instead of going silent. Grace learned to say, that plan makes me anxious, can we adjust the timing? Alina learned to say, I feel left out of this piece, Can we decide together? They left each session with one small homework, a sentence to practice, a habit to try, a way to check in. Patricia brought the envelope of photos. Naomi sat on the couch and pulled out each picture like a tiny treasure. Michael as a baby with cake on his face, Michael with a crooked backpack, Michael at a school talent show holding a rubber chicken and laughing. He laughed too hard and hiccuped, Patricia said, and Naomi tried hiccuping again and almost made it. They added the photos to a new album titled Our Stories Past and Now. Grace wiped one corner of her eye and smiled. The school meeting was short and good. The teacher thanked them for coming together. Naomi is focused and curious, she said. She likes lists. Everyone laughed because it was true. They agreed on pickup arrangements, the best way to reach each adult, and what to do if plans changed. The teacher wrote the plan on a bright yellow paper and taped it inside her desk. Naomi's stomach stopped feeling twisty at dismissal time. The birth certificate office visit came next. Forms were filled, copies made, signatures written carefully. There was a fee. Michael paid it. Grace thanked him. Naomi held both their hands while they waited for the clerk to call their number. B42, the clerk said, and they stepped forward together. Time kept moving. Leaves turned and fell. Mornings grew crisp. In small ways, they built trust, texts answered, dinners shared, a school open house attended together, an art show where Naomi's tree drawing got a small blue ribbon. They learned to say "are" without tripping. They learned to leave space for each other's ways of doing things. When they disagreed, they returned to the counselor's room and untied the knot slow, not ripping the string. One evening, 6 months after the day the music stopped, the three of them, Michael, Alina, and Naomi, stood in a garden behind a small community hall. The air smelled like oranges from a nearby tree. There were 15 chairs instead of 100. The arch was simple and green. The officiant stood waiting with a smile that knew the whole story. Devon adjusted a speaker that played the softest song. Patricia held her phone with the camera off and a tissue ready. Grace stood beside Naomi, not on the groom's side or the bride's side, on Naomi's side, which now touched both. Michael and Alina faced each other. He wore a simple suit and a steadier heart. She wore a dress that looked like light and a face that looked like yes. When it was time for vows, they held hands, but not too tight. They promised things that fit their new life, to tell the truth even when late, to keep calendars synced, to make space for hard days, to laugh loud, to let quiet be safe. Then they turned to Naomi. Alina knelt so her eyes were level with the child's. Michael knelt, too. Together they spoke a promise to Naomi, not in fancy words, but in strong ones. We promise to show up, they said. We promise to listen. We promise to protect your heart and your time. We promise no secrets. Naomi nodded, as if approving a contract. She held out the rings, a job she had practiced at the kitchen table with 2 cookies, and they slid the circles on with hands that did not shake. The officiant declared them married. The small group clapped. Ducks nearby made a sound like soft laughter. Devon whooped once, then covered his mouth. Patricia hugged Grace without planning to and said, "Thank you for being part of our family." Grace smiled. "We are building it together." Photos were taken with consent and care, no posts, no tags, just prints for albums and frames. Cake was cut. Naomi got sprinkles on her slice because some rules are good to break. Michael and Alina danced a simple dance under a string of lights. Halfway through, Naomi cut between them and they made a little triangle, 3 people swaying, 3 hands that fit. The song ended. Life did not. It went on, steady and honest. Later that night, when the chairs were stacked and the lights turned off, Alina placed Naomi's 2 old drawings on their apartment wall, the 3 stick figures and the tree with the tire swing. Below them, on a small shelf, lay the clinic report in a plain envelope and a tiny jar of sprinkles. Evidence and sweetness, side by side. Michael set his notebook next to them, open to a page that said this week, library Saturday, math game Tuesday, parent meeting Thursday. He looked at Alina and then at the door, where a new calendar hung with careful squares. "We did it," he said, not proud, not surprised, just grateful. Alina took his hand. "We are doing it," she corrected kindly. From the bedroom, Naomi's voice floated out, sleep thick and sure. "Good night," she called. "Good night," they called back in the same second. In the quiet that followed, they heard the city's soft breath and their own. The day did not need a big ending. It had a good one, a home where truth lived, a child who slept easy, two adults who had chosen the slow, strong road. The music that had once stopped now played in a new key, lower, warmer, true. And in that key, their life began again.